This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program News Analysis, we now bring you a discussion on BRICS Declaration. The participants are Skand Ranjan Tayal, former diplomat, and Vineet Wahi, journalist.
Mr. Tayal, how do you look at the ongoing BRICS Summit in China?
This is the 9th BRICS Summit and at Xiamen, and the declaration is very long, about 47 pages. And I believe from many points of view it is very satisfactory for India. India's main concerns, of course, were economic and trade related, but one of concerns which is very specific to us is on terrorism. And particularly on terrorism, the Xiamen Declaration adopted today has been very strong, has been very forthright. And for the first time in the BRICS forum, two terrorist organizations which have been attacking India have been named, and they are Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. And that is a very good recognition by our friends in BRICS, the other four countries, that the source of problems in India, in AFPAC region, lies in Pakistan. And it's about 4 paragraphs on terrorism. And the members have deplored all terrorist attacks worldwide, including attacks in BRICS countries, which of course means India also. And one sentence is very important, where all the members say the responsibility of all states to prevent financing of terrorist networks and terrorist actions from their territories, which directly points a finger at Pakistan.
So from that point of view, it is significant for India.
I would say it is a victory for India, because when the last summit was in Goa, there our Prime Minister had spoken very strongly about terrorism. And after that, of course, we have worked with China and other countries, and we got this in the declaration, which is very satisfactory to us, and it is significant, and it gives some kind of warning also to Pakistan that it is losing friends if it continues to pursue on the path of terrorism.
BRICS countries have invited 5 biggest countries. They are like Egypt, you have Mexico, you have Thailand, you have Guyana, you have Tajikistan, but not Pakistan. How do you view this?
Again, this omission is very, very significant, because as you rightly mentioned, in the neighborhood, Pakistan is one of the closest friends of China. And when they have Tajikistan, another neighbor, and Thailand, and not Pakistan, that here, of course, we do not know what happened inside. But I see the invisible hand of India, Indian diplomacy. We must have advised China that it is not appropriate to invite Pakistan, which is a sponsor of terrorism, whatever your bilateral relations may be with that country.
Tayal Saab, the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, talked of affordable and sustainable access to energy being crucial for development of the BRICS nation. What is your take on this, sir?
This is a very, very important initiative of our Prime Minister of the government. The International Solar Alliance is being promoted in India. We have such a big program for solar energy, and particularly for South Africa, Brazil, India, China also short of energy, and we import a lot of energy. Only Russia is energy surplus. And Prime Minister in our statement mentioned affordable and sustainable energy. And this is a direction in which the BRICS countries will work together, and this very much meshes with our own development priorities.
The Prime Minister also stressed on people-to-people exchange and advocated inclusive development agenda. How do you view this, sir?
This is now the dilemma of development, that growth is there, but in many countries the growth is not percolating down to all sections of the society. In India, our Prime Minister is very much aware that the employment generation is a very big issue. So along with growth and development, it should be inclusive growth. That means all sections of the society should benefit. And he also spoke about smart cities, urbanization. These are all linked. So development and growth should not be seen only in economic statistical terms, but also what their impact will be on the common man.
For instance,
smart cities, urbanization, that is a big challenge for China, for India, for South Africa, for Brazil also, all the highly populated countries, because the populations are shifting from rural areas to urban areas. How to deal with that? How to have common solutions? How to use information technology, new technologies to manage the urban growth, to manage employment. In these various sections of the declaration, there are indicators in which direction more work will be done together.
So what positives you visualize emerging from this summit?
The theme of the summit was strong partnership for a better future. So partnership is there. Now some of the BRICS countries are facing economic difficulties. So together it will be easier to face them. And the biggest takeaway in my view is that perhaps it sends a very good signal for India-China friendship, because whatever I have seen of the declaration and the way Prime Minister has been interacting and the bilateral meeting is tomorrow, I think China has been sensitive to India's concerns, because also I did not see a reference to the Belt and Road Initiative of China. Belt and Road Initiative is a flagship project of China on which they have invested a lot of prestige, a lot of money, but there is no reference to BRI in the declaration, whatever I could quickly read.
In diplomatic terms, what does it mean?
India has been able to convince China that please look at the concerns of other countries and don't push it too much. In his plenary statement, Chinese President Xi Jinping acknowledged this, and he said that BRI is not a tool to advance a geopolitical agenda, but a platform for practical cooperation. So indirectly he addressed India's concerns. What will practically happen and what will we follow up, that is a separate issue. But India has been able to flag its concern and has been able to have a consensus that there is no mention in the declaration. I believe this is also a big plus for India.
Mr. Thayil, Mr. Modi also stressed the need for our central banks in strengthening their capabilities and promoting cooperation between contingent reserve arrangement and IMF. How do you look at this, sir?
For international banking related issues, we are still dependent on Western agencies. So Prime Minister very clearly said about creation of a BRICS rating agency. All the rating agencies are Western. So they rate the Indian agency or Chinese agency or South African, whether it is an industry, whether it is an insurance company, whether it is a business, with their own perspective, which ignore the actual yardsticks which should be used often. So it is important that we five BRICS countries are the major developing country economies. They have their own rating agency which can give an independent
view. So you are trying to say in a way that these BRICS countries own these things, requirements or whatever, they are not taken into account by Western rating agencies.
That's right.
And hence the need for this. The current summit will be setting the agenda for, say, the next decade.
The whole formation of BRICS was to have a common position among major developing countries, because the major developed countries were united in G8, G7 now. So there are two parts of BRICS work. One is to have a common position on international issues which are related with finance, trade, economy, climate change. And the other part is how to have more cooperation among the BRICS countries, for which they have an agenda of action, etc. Now, for instance, on climate change, the five countries, major countries, they have endorsed the Paris Treaty. America is walking out of. All the European countries are also endorsing the Paris Climate Treaty. So again, it is a common position and it is a very important position. So in different ways, how you influence the global agenda for climate change, for economy, for IMF, they have said that the quota should be revised and upward. The major economies which are coming up, their quota should increase. So there are so many things on which it is important if the five countries speak together and act together in the international fora. So there a very strong message goes if we five countries stand together and say something with a common voice.
You're trying to say there might be differences of everybody has his own stand, but on this issue they need to come together.
The concerns of the developed countries are different. So how to harmonize the two, or at least make sure the developed countries which are economically more powerful, which are better organized, are not able to ramrod their own agenda. And remember, in climate change negotiations, they were trying to put some restrictions on India's development, on China's development. And in Copenhagen, when the BRICS countries practically they were the same, they came together, and Africa, etc., they had to change their position. There is a lot which can be done together, and in that China will also have to play a major role.
All the five countries, they got to have mutual trust for each other so that they can pursue their common agenda. BRICS countries account for, say, about 43% of the population, 50% of the world economic growth, 23% of the global GDP, that was in 2015. And you have about 35% voting power in the World Bank. In view of all these things, how important the BRICS is for the rest of the world and vice versa, sir?
BRICS has a way of including the views of other developing countries and emerging economies. So in a way, BRICS provides a voice to the developing countries and emerging economies. But we are also on the growth path for development, so we are like a bridge between developed world and developing world. And there is a lot of respect for the voice of BRICS. And in any global forum, when our leaders, 5 leaders speak from the same script, they say the same thing, then it gives them a lot of voice, and it will be important for the balanced development of the whole global economy. And also now in security, countries are taking some very strong positions. On Syria, the declaration is very strong. On Korea, they have mentioned. North Korea is now becoming a state which is defying the Security Council, which is defying the international opinion. And fortunately, its main patron is China. China will have to act and will have to apply more pressure on North Korea. Otherwise, it can have some catastrophic consequences for the region.
Sir, I was just now talking about the BRIC countries accounting for various sectors, whether it is GDP and all other things like that. Now, my point is, how do you view the BRICS coming up in the next 5-6 years? What is needed to be done so that BRICS send a strong message to the rest of the world? Look, we have come up.
BRICS countries have to make sure their own economy grows very well, grows consistently by 6 and 7%. And internally, there should be political stability. In South Africa, there are some issues. In Brazil, there are some issues. So it is very important. They are very friendly countries to us and very major powers in their continent. So it is very important their internal politics get stabilized and their economic growth continues to be impressive.
Sir, during the plenary, Mr. Modi laid focus on disaster resilient infrastructure. Besides, he shared his thoughts for deepening BRICS partnership, underlined mainstreaming of youth by the member states. How do you view this, sir?
India is a very young country, and what the reports are that the unemployment is very high in South Africa also. Brazil also unemployment is high. So the youth satisfaction is very important for the future, that how the young people remain committed to the society and they are given proper jobs and economy, because the future depends on the youth. And Prime Minister Modi has rightly emphasized the importance of the youth in the policies of individual countries and of BRICS.
How would you describe the ongoing summit?
The summit had a declaration and the events leading up to it that have given a very good chemistry between India and China. That is, I think, a big takeaway. Number 2, on terrorism, whatever our concerns are being very well reflected in the declaration, which indirectly totally castigates Pakistan for its complicity in promotion of terrorism in the region. That is a big takeaway. Then there is no mention of the Belt and Road Initiative in the declaration. I think that is a big takeaway for us. And overall, the economic policies which have been narrated in this 45-page document, they are very good for us, and it will be important if all the 5 countries work together. It will help in development of India.
Thank you, Mr. Tayal.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on BRICS Declaration. The participants were Skand Ranjan Tayal, former diplomat, and Vineet Wahi, journalist. The program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.nic.in. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.